So guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the Ian West Network, and today we have the Motorola Edge, which is the Metro by T-Mobile version. You can actually get this phone for $0 outside of the store. You just pay for the first month bill, so you're looking at under $100 or maybe a couple dollars shy, a little bit over $100 when you think of the activation fees and taxes. And this guy over here is going to be the Motorola Flip, which costs a little bit more, $99 initially inside the store plus the first month bill. Probably about $198 plus the taxes and fees and things like that. Might come to $200 depending on where you live. Both devices are good in their own right, but depending on what you choose to use them for, hopefully this video helps guide you into making that decision. So with that being said, let's get right into this review. I do have full-blown reviews on the channel for each device separately for anyone that wants to look at that, but this right here is more so a comparison, so I'm going to try to compress information, so keep that in mind. Anyway, like and subscribe like always. Timestamps are in the description. Let's get right into this video and talk about both of these devices. So let's first talk about the screen quality. Now, granted, the Moto Edge on paper does have the sharper screen, but there are certain elements with the processor that just doesn't mesh very well. I'm going to show you in a moment. So you can see this background right here. You see the rain effect? I love this effect on both of these devices. If you slide down right here, everything seems to be perfectly fine when it comes to that, right? But if you slide down on this one, you're going to notice that it's a lot laggier and it's a little bit slower. But that's only if you have this screen effect on. Believe it or not, when it comes to gaming, the Moto Edge is a clear winner. So let me just say that right now before you say I want to get the Flip instead of the Edge. Trust me, it's weird. Like once you start using both of these devices, you start noticing the shortcomings of both of them. Both good, but both bad in a certain way also. But I like both of them. As you can see, I own both phones. And believe it or not, I'm actually recording right now on the Moto RAZR, my wife's device, for this video. So let's talk about the screen quality. You heard me ramble enough. On this side, you have 2400 by 1080. It is $399 for the PPI. For anyone that's just listening to this video, I'm talking about the Moto Edge right now. You have 6.6 inches. It is POLED. Both of them are, to be exact. You have 144 hertz. So it's a really good screen. And to be honest, the experience has been wonderful using this. The only downside I can say is that getting tempered glass for a phone that has curved edges may be a little bit challenging to find the proper company that where the screen protector won't lift up. But outside of that, it's a really beautifully crafted phone. I think this looks very, very nice. It doesn't have a headphone jack or anything like that, but you do have your SIM tray on the bottom, of course eSIM, USB-C, you have your speaker grills, you have the cameras, the Motorola symbol in the back is not the fingerprint. The fingerprint actually is on the front of the screen like so, which is pretty simple. It's very, very responsive. And of course, let me see if I can do that real fast. I'm sitting behind the camera so I can't, but this does also have face unlock, so keep that in mind. So on the left-hand side, this is the Motorola Flip device. So the inside of the screen is actually 120 hertz while this one is 144, so it's going to move a little bit smoother depending on what it is you're doing. You have 2640 by 1080, and you have a 413 PPI. So for the aspect ratio, I don't know how to say this correctly, but I'm just going to say it to you, 22.9 for the ratio, while this one is 20.9 for the Motorola Edge. But also for the RAZR, let's not forget guys, you have the outside screen. So the outside screen is actually 90 hertz. And I forget the exact, specifications for the outside, but this is also a OLED screen, I believe it is, on the outside, or POLED. I think it's OLED on the outside. So you have the option to be able to actually go to your applications and things from the outside of the screen. So for example, let's say I want to use YouTube, you can actually use every single application from the outside of the screen, which might be pretty useful for some people that are interested in just having their phone closed rather than having an open phone all the time. In addition to that, guess what guys, for you YouTube lovers that like listening to YouTube music, you can close the phone out, play the video, not lock it, and then the video will keep playing from the outside, so you can just throw it in your pocket, which is, you know, a little surefire way to get around the whole YouTube music aspect of things where you have to keep the phone unlocked all the time. So 2 screens is pretty good, and I use this on a regular basis. This is actually my primary phone, the Flip right here, but I do find myself switching between the two because there are aspects about both of them that I really do love. But with that being said, if you decide to, totally forgot. This also has face unlock, and in addition to that, this button right here is actually the lock button. You just hover your finger over the lock button, and it also doubles down at the fingerprint. So they both have face unlock. They both have fingerprint sensors if necessary, and you have many different ways to unlock the phone. Both work very well. Oddly enough, for whatever reason, this one has double tap and this one doesn't. I was looking in the settings and I couldn't find it. You would think a phone without a flip would have double tap, but I do feel like you're getting a more premium experience with the Moto RAZR, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later in this video, but let's move on right now. So the recording that you're seeing back here is in full HD 60 frames for the Moto Edge on the top and the Moto RAZR on the bottom. And that's how I'm going to talk about this on the camera section. So when we're talking about the front cameras, both of them are 32 megapixels. You can still record in 4K, but full HD is going to be 60 frames, so that's out of the way. When it comes to the ultra wide camera, both of them are 13 megapixel, the secondary camera. The aperture size, I might have butchered the word, both is f2.2, and the pixel size is going to be 1.12. Now the main differences is going to be that 50 megapixel camera. So I'm going to break down some of the specifications for the person out there that needs to know, that's familiar with cameras. The 50 megapixel for the RAZR is PDAF, while the 50 megapixel for the Edge is iOS and PDAF. In addition to that, the aperture size is f1.7 and the for the flip, and it's going to be f1.8 for the Edge. The pixel size is going to be 0.8 for the RAZR flip, and it's going to be 1.0 for the Edge. So there is slight differences, and you're going to notice a difference when you're recording in certain locations for like low lighting and outside weather changes and things like that. It is going to be a difference. It's going to be so dramatic that you feel like one camera is substantially better than the other. So far, I haven't experienced that, but a professional with a camera is going to know how to navigate the both of them and make the basically, what's the word I'm looking for here? If you're good with camera work, you know how to use the pro settings and different things for both these devices, you are going to determine which one is going to be better. But to the naked eye, to the average person, you may not really care. You just want something that works. And I think both cameras do perform pretty well in that regard. Now, there's another aspect we need to talk about. When it comes to long-term using the cameras, I feel like the Edge does a better job of heat management, where it doesn't get nearly as hot. So when I do a full review with the Motorola Edge right here, which is the tall phone, it doesn't get extremely hot compared to the Moto Flip. From my understanding, and I did a little bit of research on this online, because the Flip has, I guess, less ventilation, it has multiple screens, it's going to get a whole lot hotter, which affect the processing power and how well it does with the cameras. Is this going to affect you with the cameras? I can't really say for long-term exposure, because I only had each phone for, well, I had the RAZR phone for a couple months, and I did have the Edge for quite some time now. But again, I use them both equally in the same regard, and quite frankly, I like both I like the performance of both when it comes to the cameras. I don't care if one gets slightly hotter than the other, as long as they don't turn out like the older Pixel devices that feel like a fireball, which neither one of these do. I'm perfectly fine with them. But as a consumer, I figure I'll just let you know before you guys go and just buy a device based on my recommendation. Research it a little bit. There will be other videos online where people go into depth in the cameras, and then you'll determine which one truly is better for you as overall. So this is where the phones truly separate themselves. You see on the top, I have Diablo Immortal playing on the Motorola Edge, and on the bottom, I have Diablo Immortal playing on the RAZR. Now let me tell you the experience about both of them. When it comes to the Edge in general, I feel like there's a lot less lag. That phone doesn't get nearly as hot as the Motorola Flip device, and it just runs much smoothly. Now both of them are both low settings because they are mid-tier phones. Both of them are 30 frames, so it's identical in terms of settings, but one is visually better than the other. Might I add, and I have to say this about Call of Duty Mobile, I had no issues whatsoever with Call of Duty Mobile with the Motorola Edge. I could do match after match after match after match, and the processing power stayed consistent. It might be a hiccup here and there every so often, but it is not noticeable at all when it comes to your playing experience. Now, when we talk about the Moto RAZR, boy, oh boy, does this thing fail miserably in the processing department. Let me explain. So when I played Diablo Immortal initially, I noticed that the graphics, certain areas was slowing down, and especially when it was like more people involved, like actual online people. It was skipping a lot more when I threw fireballs or summoned the zombie army. It started lagging a little bit. It was still playable from beginning to end. That doesn't change, but you do notice a huge dip in processing power, even though this processor on paper is supposed to be better than the Motorola Edge. It's all about the ventilation of the phone itself and the fact that it does run two screens simultaneously. So I do understand that it's drawing more power, and you may get a little bit less from the actual gameplay. Now, when we talk about Call of Duty Mobile, this is where this phone was terrible at it. The Motorola Flip right here for Motorola my mind's all over the place. For Call of Duty Mobile, after like 1 or 2 matches, sometimes I can go 3 or 4 matches, I start noticing that the phone is slower. When I mean slower, we're talking about it's stuttering from beginning of the match to the end of the match. It's stuttering in the just the menu. Like my gun might disappear when I'm setting up my character or switching guns or adding attachments. Sometimes it just didn't bother popping up. I would load into games a lot later than the Motorola Edge. I'll get into the game, I'm getting shot up immediately before my character even processes on the screen. I'll pick my loadout, no gun pops out, nothing. And that might happen with mid-tier phones in general, so it's not just the Motorola Flip that this does this on, but it's much more apparent on this device. And for it to cost nearly $600 straight out of the box and perform that poorly says that it's just not optimized that well for that particular game. Now, if you're talking about Genshin Impact and other games, the Edge is going to play every single game better. If you're talking about editing applications, Canva, if we're talking about UCut, converting applications, everything is going to run better for the most part on the Edge. But surprisingly, when it came to special wallpaper, like live wallpapers and things like that, I believe I showed that earlier in the video, the Edge, the Flip device, runs smoother. So it's better in certain areas, it's worse in certain areas. It really depends on what it is you're trying to use your device for. If you're using it for heavy editing and things like that, you're going to go with the Edge. If you want it for just the aesthetic, the looks, the outside screen, the ease of access, you might end up going to the RAZR Flip. It's really up to you, the consumer. But personally, if you're getting it for a kid or someone that's playing Roblox and things like that, stick to the Edge. It's cheaper and it's going to be a lot more effective. That's just my opinion and my experience using both devices. Yours might be entirely different. My suggestion is to look at other reviews for someone that might go in more depth so that you can just, make sure you get the right purchase and the best bang for your buck. So let me add this quick part into this section real fast for you guys. The Flip device, which I'll mention this a little bit later, probably in the camera section or somewhere in this section. This one actually has IPX8, the Flip device, while the Motorola Edge is actually IP68. So for the people out there that's doing some type of recording in inclement weather, keep in mind that they're not equal in terms of which ones can get hit by water or things like that. Also, we got to talk about this too. Bluetooth 5.4. You have USB-C, 2.0, USB-C. So it's actually worse than the Motorola Edge in that regard. They both have, the GPS and the I'm not even going to talk about that features, the accelerometer. Is that how you say it? The gyroscope. This has that NFC. They both have that. Now, when it comes to the Motorola Edge over here, this guy is actually 5.2 Bluetooth, 5.4, 5.2. I know some of you might say, well, they came out the same year, 5 days apart. Why? But watch this. This guy right here has USB-C 3.1. 2.0. If we're transferring speeds, this is going to be a better device, and I've tested that out many times on this computer. I'm always putting them both in transfer mode, moving music, photos, and things like that. You're going to get a better experience with your USB, especially if you have a computer that has USB 3.0 drives in the computer and whatnot, the actual USB slots. You're going to get a better experience with this one. But at the end of the day, like I said before, I don't have an issue with either in that regard. Both of them work like a wonder. They both work like a charm. And surprisingly, for Metro by T-Mobile, just so you know, initially when you get these phones inside the store, they may tell you the insurance is $10. In reality, insurance is actually $3 for either of these phones. They give you a bundle plan. So if you cancel that bundle plan after walking out, go back into the store, do whatever you want to do the following day, you can actually get that $3 insurance for either one of these. I haven't done a deductible for either one, but it's probably between $20 to $50 to replace these. So it is worthwhile. That's why I say Motorola has done a really good job on coming out with devices that are reasonably priced, that give you the full package. They may, step back a little bit in certain regards, but this is not bad for the asking price. $199 for port, $99 for new number under Metro by T-Mobile. This guy is absolutely free for a new number and free for a port if you choose to do so. I'm only speaking about the Metro plans. If you go to Best Buy or the Motorola website, the phones are going to be dramatically different in price. So please do keep that in mind. So to answer the question, which device is better, I'm going to break this down in a way for the consumer so it's easier for you to understand. And by no means am I trying to insult anyone's intelligence. I just noticed that, we all start from somewhere. And a lot of times, even if we research something, we may not know which one is better, because numbers on a paper or on a board doesn't necessarily mean that in real life it's a better device. So for the Moto Edge over here, the Moto RAZR over here, you have the 90 hertz screen on the outside. You can use applications, text messages, whatever you want on the outside of the screen if you choose to. And when you flip it open, it continues whatever it is that you're doing. You have a 120 hertz screen in the inside. It's a pretty cool device. Over here, you have the 144 hertz screen. It works very, very well. But like we talked about in the beginning, if you use some of the special effects on the wallpapers, the phone does slow down a little bit and it is noticeable. If I take that off, you don't have to worry about anything whatsoever. It's going to work like a regular phone. In addition to that, this is, like I said, 144 hertz, 6.6 inches. This one is 6.9 on the inside, 3.6 on the outside of the screen, so keep that in mind. You both have 256 gigs internally, so lots of internal memory. Both have 8 gigs of RAM, so keep that in mind. Both run on Android 14. The processor on this one is better on paper, but when you actually use it for, editing or gaming, the Moto Edge does perform better. Believe it or not, the cameras are the same. 50 megapixels for the outside, 32 selfie. It is a secondary camera. I'm not talking about that right now because it's pretty much the same. But I do feel like the cameras on the Moto Edge do come out to be better. And I think the smoothness of the phone when it comes to recordings are better on the Motorola Edge overall. Other reviewers might feel a different way depending on the settings that you change, but right outside of the box, the Edge has the better cameras. In terms of battery, you have 68 watt fast charging for the Motorola Edge over here, while you have 30 watts over here. So what does that equate to? 30 minutes will give you 58% for the Motorola RAZR, which isn't bad. That's really good. It's actually a higher percentage than what the iPhones do, and the current iPhones, believe it or not. While 39 minutes on this guy over here, the Edge, will actually charge it 0 to 100% guaranteed. Now, if you're using the device, obviously it's going to slow down a little bit, but if you just have it plugged in, you walk away, you come back, it's going to charge extremely fast. It's not as fast as a OnePlus, but this isn't bad for a budget device. Both of them are pretty fast for budgets, so you can't really go wrong with that. Battery life, though, you have 4,200 battery in this one, 5,000 in the Edge. But guess what? When it comes to real life usage, I feel like the Motorola RAZR does edge it out by like another 30 minutes to an hour for on screen time. But does that really matter if the phone can charge in 39 minutes from 0 to 100? I never let my phone go below 50%. So for me, charging speeds do matter the most. If you had to use a standalone device, which one do you prefer? The one that charges faster or the one that has the bigger screen? I'll leave that to you. Charging speeds isn't everything for everybody, and you may not care that often, but it is still nice to know. Now, I'm a little conflicted about this one. 15 watt wireless charging on the Motorola Edge. Some websites say that the Motorola RAZR 2024 also have 15 watt, but also other websites say it has 5 watts. So in my experience, I do feel like this one over here does charge faster. So I'm thinking this probably is 5 watt wireless charging, while this one is 15. Even if I'm wrong about that, I will still give it up to the Motorola Edge of having the faster charging speeds. Now, screens. Whoops, I dropped the phone. This one has the fingerprint sensor on the outside of the screen. You tap that, boom, you're good to go. This guy over here has the fingerprint on the screen. It's built in. You hold this, it unlocks. The speeds are practically the same. One isn't really faster than the other. They both also have face unlock. So again, when it comes to just everyday use, I do feel like the Motorola RAZR edges out the Edge, no pun intended. For just everyday uses, swiping and things like that, I feel like the icons look a little bit better. It might be because of the aspect ratio, because this is a 6.9 inch screen. This is, I think, 22.9, while this one is 20.9. So it appears like things are bigger than what they actually are. I can make the icons a little bit smaller, but that's just off the initial look of my eye. Both of them are great. I don't have anything really bad to say, but if you're a gamer, you get the Edge. point blank, if you prefer the processing power and speed, you're going to get the Edge. Even if this one on paper is better through the benchmarks, the actual performance is going to be the Edge overall, and it's cheaper. Free for Metro by T-Mobile, you just pay the first month bill. This guy is $99 with the new line, which is not bad, but it does fluctuate because normally it's $199 for a new line, so you're looking at a little over $300. But if you get it on sale right now for the $99 price tag, you're looking at about $198 to about $200 and something dollars, $202, no more than $210 after taxes, while this guy might be $105 or so, or even under that total if they waive that activation fee, which many stores do. So I don't have a definite which one is better. But for my lifestyle, it's going to be the Edge because I play a lot of Call of Duty Mobile, and I don't have time for all that lag that this one has in that particular game. So that's it for me. But I'm not sure which one I'm going to use more often because I got them both, so I don't have to choose. Anyway, like and subscribe like always. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace, be safe. I'm out.